Our next speaker is going to be Castillo. He is our interim CEO and Vice President of Finance and Administration at the San Diego Food Bank. In his role, he provides oversight for all financial, administrative, human resources, and information and technology operations. Man, that's a lot. Casey brings to the food bank more than 10 years of nonprofit management, executive, and financial experience. But prior to coming to the food bank, Casey served on several nonprofit boards and committees. Most recently, he served on the board of directors for El Futuro Credit Union, an organization that provides financial services for working families and those traditionally underserved by financial institutions. So I will pass it over to Casey to give our opening remarks here.
Well, thank you, Shelley. I think it sounds like I need to update that because now it's well over 20 years and that just means I'm old. Good morning and welcome. We're grateful to have you at our 8th biennial hunger conference. I've been a food banker for a very, very long time. And because of that, I think I've been at all 8 conferences. So again, that means I'm old and I guess lucky me. We appreciate all that you are doing in our community, and we appreciate you spending time with us throughout the day today. We think this is a wonderful opportunity for all of us to come together, to teach, to learn, to collaborate, innovate, and advance all of our great missions, and we are excited about that. I want to thank each and every one of you for what you mean to our community, and especially how you responded during COVID and this pandemic over the last 18 months. Our collective efforts sustain this community, and I hope you all recognize that. We are feeding hundreds of thousands of individuals and families each month. And providing millions of pounds of food. And that allows us to also provide 32 million meals per month. So that is huge. That is all your work, and we really do appreciate that. But despite that amazing response, our community still needs us. And I think that's why it's so important that we are here today, that we are unified and working towards a common and worthy goal. I want to thank our staff for their hard work of bringing this conference to fruition. I'd like to thank all of those that are presenting today for sharing their experience and their expertise. Ultimately, for today, my hope is that we come together and we come away from this renewed and motivated to continue this great work, that we will continue to fight the good fights, and that we can do that together. So again, thank you for all that you do. And for the amazing work that you are adding in our community.
Thanks, Casey, for that really warm welcome to our conference. So up next, we have an open plenary and question and answer session with San Diego County Board of Supervisors, Tara Lawson-Remer. She's here representing District 3. And a little bit about Tara before she joins us. Tara Lawson-Remer, she's a 3rd-generation San Diegan who served as senior advisor in the Obama administration, developing environmental policies to cut pollution from oil drilling and mining. As an economist with the United Nations and World Bank, she worked around the world to create jobs, restart businesses, and generate economic activity after a crisis. Man, that is just like what we're facing right now during the pandemic. As an educator and local community college advisory board member, Tara teaches public policy and mentors disadvantaged students. And as a small businesswoman, Tara understands firsthand the challenges facing business, community, and nonprofit sector during the COVID-19 crisis. Tara represents District 3 on the San Diego County Board of Supervisors, and she is passionate with her pursuit to improve the quality of life for all San Diegans across the entire San Diego County. So I will pass it off to Tara, who I think is on here.
Oh, I was on mute. Hello, hello, hello. Well, first of all, thank you so much to Casey Castillo, CEO and Vice President for the Jacobs and Cushman San Diego Food Bank. This is really such an amazing event, and I'm so honored to be here, being able to have the opportunity to address the people who've been at the forefront and leading the work to tackle hunger in our region. 18 months ago, the people who were most passionate about solving hunger were the people at this conference. But today, our entire region and our entire state, and really our entire country, is focused on food insecurity like never before. This pandemic has created a nation of hunger-aware people. And so now the question is, what do we do with this newfound awareness? And before I get to that, I want to thank each and every one of you. The COVID-19 pandemic highlighted cracks in our system and disparities along racial and socioeconomic lines. But as those cracks widened, you made sure our community did not fall into the void. You woke up day in and day out, and you just kept building a longer and longer bridge to get over the chasm. During the pandemic, some people fell into hunger for the first time. Others were already in need, and COVID made things even harder. But the result is that you now have 3.3 million people in San Diego County who understand the work you do better than ever before and want you to succeed. The pandemic has shined a light on the heroes among us, like you, who have been dedicated to fighting hunger in San Diego for quite a number of years. Some estimates show that food insecurity tripled in the pandemic, and demand for our emergency food system increased by 50%. The economic impact of the pandemic isn't just an immediate problem, but will have long-term impacts. At the beginning of the pandemic, there was so much uncertainty, but you saw a need and took action, pivoted when necessary, and ultimately fed our community. So I want you to know that I know that the reason that this happened, the reason that we were successful during this crisis is because you are professionals and you have been preparing for years, building out the volunteer networks with the logistical infrastructure and the contingency plans. You increased the pounds of food distributed by more than 60%, which is an extremely difficult feat, but you did it. And on behalf of the County Board of Supervisors, I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart because you've saved lives and helped save our region. As a single mom raising a child on one income, I understand personally how quickly a few missed paychecks could spiral into hunger. A lost job could make everything tenuous. When you have one paycheck and you miss those paychecks, families are forced to choose between paying the rent and putting food on the table. You help make sure that families in San Diego did not have to make that devastating choice. So like I said earlier, we now have the attention of the region and the nation focused on food and food insecurity. What do we do with this newfound awareness? I believe it is time to enlist our entire community in our effort to create lasting change. One of my biggest priorities at the county right now is creating a regional sustainability plan. A big piece of this vision for our common future is grounded in the work to move our distribution of food so that we distribute food to people sustainably. Sustainable food procurement is an imperative strategy to address ecosystems and climate change. Food belongs in bellies, not in the trash. And the future of food systems in our region is dependent on setting up sustainable infrastructures to continue to produce healthy food for everyone, to put food on the table today and for future generations to come. What else can we do? What else must we do with this newfound awareness about the crisis of hunger facing so many members of our community? We can bring the community together to end hunger in San Diego County. This conference isn't just about the work you have done, it's about the work to come. It's about the future. I often talk up to my team about our work to create sustainable, long-standing change. That's one of the reasons I championed a policy in our first 100 days to look at access and enrollment in CalFresh and other public benefit programs to help end the cycle of poverty and allow people to live their lives with dignity. When people come to the county for help, whether it's during a pandemic or not, we want it to be a simple process. But we found that enrollment can be too confusing or intrusive. In April, the Board of Supervisors approved proposals from myself and Vice Chair Nora Vargas to remove barriers that keep eligible residents from enrolling in county aid programs. The public pays for these programs with the expectation that they will be accessible to the people most in need in our community. But there are too many eligible residents in San Diego County who cannot access these services. So we have also created a task force under the Social Services Advisory Board to undertake a comprehensive review of enrollment hurdles for all our programs, and then create plans to overcome these hurdles and to increase participation in self-sufficiency programs such as CalFresh, but also others, including CalWorks, Medi-Cal, Cash Assistance, and General Relief. This task force is seeking the input of local experts with knowledge of health and human services. They may have even already reached out to some of you. And as much as we are doing at the county level, we also have partners at the state and federal level. With changes from Sacramento and the Biden administration to increase benefit amounts and waive the interview process, we see that creative solutions in times of crisis can create opportunities for innovation in the long term. What we do to strengthen the safety net is a team effort. We're leading here at the county, and we are grateful for leadership as well from our allies in Sacramento and Washington. As you participate in this conference today, I ask you to think about what changes made in your lives and those of the people you serve made things easier during the pandemic and should be considered for long-term, sustainable, permanent implementation. The pandemic showed that when our backs are against the wall, when our community is hungry, there is little that we cannot accomplish. We proved that we can do the urgent things. This is why I believe we can do the important, long-term, hard things as well, and sustainably and equitably end hunger for good in San Diego County. So thank you all for your leadership and for all you do for our community, and I look forward to your questions.
Tara, thank you so much for inspiring us here at the beginning of our conference. One of our questions that have come in from the audience, in our audience here, we have a lot of food pantries and congregate meal programs, people on the front line doing this work, like you said, more than ever before, coming to meet the need. Tara, how can this group help move forward the goals of the San Diego County Board of Supervisors?
I am so grateful for that question. Thank you so much. There's a few ways that I would love to see us partner together more deeply. One, as I mentioned, we have an initiative called Make the County Work for Everyone. That's the initiative I spoke about that's focused on expanding access and enrollment in all of our programs. So I would love to encourage people to engage with that task force. If that task force has not contacted you already, if you could message me or Amanda Berry, I think she's on this as well, in the chat with your contact information so that we can get your input on what we should be doing at the county to overcome some of these barriers. We know that you know what those barriers are, that you see those in your clients and your partners every single day. And we really look for your leadership in identifying what is making it difficult for people to access the programs that we have at the county. What are the barriers, either in terms of language or other forms of outreach or paperwork required or anything else that you know is making it hard for people to access the services they need and deserve. If you could share your input and your feedback on what those barriers are, so that as we look to make the county work for everyone as part of this new initiative, we can focus on dismantling those barriers. So again, if no one has reached out to you already for the Make the County Work Task Force, please message me privately or in the chat with your contact information, or Amanda Berry, who's also here, my staff member, and we will make sure to reach out to you. So that's one thing that I think is really vital. The other thing I began to talk about, which was food system sustainability. And I think everyone knows that sustainability is a core goal of mine, but one that's shared by all of my colleagues on the board. And that is to ensure that when we look to our future, we're building a future that's sustainable and equitable for everyone. And a big piece of this is our food systems. There's so much food procurement that goes on in San Diego that leads to waste, where food ends up in the trash, and where we're leaving people who need food out in the cold while we're basically just dumping food down the garbage. So that is an initiative we have at San Diego County. We're looking to move towards 100% sustainable food sourcing over the next couple years. Right now, we're just in the pilot stage. So if you have been working on food system sustainability, we would love to have you as part of that effort. So again, if that's something you've been working on, is looking at sustainable food sourcing and how to ensure that our food systems are being, we're supporting sustainability and where we get our food and how we grow our food, please message me on that topic as well.
Thanks so much, Tara. I'm going to include Amanda Berry's contact information when I send out notes at the end of the conference to all the attendees. So if you don't capture her contact information in the chat, you will get it in email later from the San Diego Food Bank. Tara, I know among our audience, one of the big things they struggle with is fundraising and funding. And I know that many of them are church-based or faith-based programs, and they might operate in zero budget for purchasing food or transportation or not even staffing. They might be purely volunteer run on absolutely no budget, which is okay, and they are doing amazing work. But I know that some of our partners out there have accessed the County Board of Supervisors Neighborhood Reinvestment Program and gotten some funding for their nonprofit when they need to do some capacity building or get refrigeration or things like that. Can you talk a little bit so the broader audience knows about the County Board of Supervisors Neighborhood Reinvestment Program?
That is a fantastic question. So just let me back up and give a full context. So there's two programs. One are community enhancement grants, and one are the neighborhood reinvestment grants. And they're slightly different in terms of their uses, but they're certainly both appropriate for people to, and for groups on this call to be applying to for funding. And every board office has a pot of funding set aside for community enhancement and neighborhood investment grants. Most of those priorities are set board office by board office. Certainly ending hunger is one of the top priorities of my board office. And so we are absolutely looking to support organizations who are doing incredible work in our communities to tackle hunger. I imagine that is a priority that's shared as well by my colleagues. Generally, the way it works is you want to apply for the supervisor whose district you're operating in. So, if you're in Escondido or Mira Mesa or University City or Solana Beach or Encinitas or Tierra Santa, I mean, my district's huge, but one of there's any part of D3, you absolutely want to apply to us. If you're located in, say Chula Vista, you're probably going to be applying to Supervisor Vargas. If you're up in Oceanside, you're applying to Desmond, so on and so forth. So that's the basic idea is that there's these pots of money. They're available. They're fairly small. I think the average size grant is about $10,000, but I think you can do a lot. Especially if you're an all volunteer team and you're looking to invest in some of your infrastructure. And we would absolutely love to support your work. So I would encourage everyone in my office, everyone on this call, if you want more information, again, reach out to Amanda. We have a person on our team who directs our grants program. He can walk you through what it takes to apply and help you with your application. And if you're not in our district, we're still happy to walk you through how to apply and help you with your application, and make sure that you get pointed in the right direction so that you have the best chance of getting the support you need to continue doing the really amazing work.
Thanks so much, Tara. And for our nonprofits that are running on no budget, $10,000 is huge and can help them deliver 50,000 meals to the community. So every dollar counts for these nonprofits on very thin budgets. We have a question from one of our colleges on attendance. Are colleges actually eligible to apply for this grant funding?
I'm very careful person because I was an academic by training, so I never say anything I'm not sure about. But I will say I think so, but I don't want to speak with certainty. I don't know why they wouldn't be, but I would want to double check with my grants director.
Okay, perfect. And we can send out some more information and links to that information after the conference.
Let me just on that want to, I want to say, if there's a critical mass of people who want training, if, Shelley and Casey, if you had say 20, 30 groups who wanted a training, I'm sure we could put that together and then be able to walk everyone through that process. We'd be more than happy to be a resource.
Thank you so much for that generous offer. We will definitely take you up on it. Our hunger conference is really part of our food bank university. We hold this conference every 2 years as a big full day session, but then quarterly we hold other sessions to keep our nonprofits engaged and bring new information to them. So in a couple months, we'll be pushing this out, and we'll work with your office to have a training for all of our agencies, just a one-off on those interested in applying for any sort of grant funding through County Board of Supervisors. Yeah. A next question for you, Tara, and to give you a little bit of background, the San Diego Food Bank, several of our nonprofit partners are implementing a countywide database. It's really innovative and it's being used by food banks across the nation. We call it FEED locally here in San Diego, Feeding Everyone with Equity and Dignity. And it's really awesome program that clients can get a barcode card, just like a county library card, and they can go access books at every library. So this is a unified food system. So somebody gets this barcode card and they can go to Father Joe's Village or Jewish Family Service or the Foundry up in Escondido, and they can use this same card to access food and not have to retell their story again and again. So I'm giving you this background to just pick your brain a little bit about data. So as the County Board of Supervisors continue to help us fight food insecurity in San Diego, what types of data do you need to help us address this issue at all levels? What types of data do you want from food banks and food pantries and congregate meal sites out there?
Did my team ask you to ask this question, Shelley?
I swear it was not plugged by your team.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just a data person. I come from as you know, I was an academic and by training, and spent most of my life working with and thinking about data and how you do evidence-based and data-driven policymaking. So I just absolutely am blown away by the fact that you're working on this. I love it. I think it's a huge gap. So I'm gonna sort of put on a hat that's not exactly your supervisor hat, right? And just sort of think about, from an empirically driven, data focused way of thinking about policy, what kind of data we need. I think there's a lot that would be helpful. So one would be to better understand, are we talking about chronic food insecurity, or how many folks are food insecure because they lost a paycheck, and so that are these challenges we're facing really structurally driven by economic insecurity, or is there is it chronic food insecurity that people are chronically in need of help on tackling hunger in their own house. So I think that's a question. I think better understanding the demographics, and particularly, are you talking about single income households or dual income households? How many kids are in the house? Some of the racial and socioeconomic makeup of people who are food insecure. I think it would also be really helpful to know, what kind of jobs people have had, and educational backgrounds, that led to the circumstance. I think more information about what would they do in the absence of the programs that you're providing. What's Plan B and what's Plan C would be really helpful, right? What are the other trade-offs that they're facing? I think also looking at what people do because they can get the help, right? So, my hypothesis, I think, and I think you all would know this better than I do, right? You're the ones in the front lines. But if people can get help with food, that means they can use those resources for things like rent, and they don't end up homeless. So that better understanding what that relationship is between food support and food assistance, and allowing people not just to put food on the table, but ability to potentially stay housed because they don't end up in a downward spiral where they can't pay for food, they can't pay for rent. So I think that some of those interconnections between what happens when one piece of your safety net falls out, and how plugging that one hole can help overall prevent a downward spiral, hopefully, and keep people at least housed. I think it would also be really helpful to better understand what issues around nutrition and food support and food assistance. And, I think that's a really useful and important piece of information, particularly for children, because we know that nutrition and having high quality nutritional food is really vital, especially for kids, in order to be able to succeed in school, but frankly, for everyone. I mean, we know that when people are eating a food that's not nutritious, then you have health problems, and you can't concentrate. It leads to depression. So I think those are some of the questions I'd be really interested in.
Thanks so much, Tara. That overlaps with a lot of the information and data we're collecting. We've got about 20% of our partners collecting this data, and we're looking to expand more. We know from across the nation, kind of our top that we can hit is about 90% of partners on a database, because it isn't quite the right fit for everyone, and some nonprofits have their own database, but that data is power. We definitely hear you there. You have given us an amazing opening plenary to our hunger conference. You've tied in so much to our keynote speaker at lunch, how some clients are coming in for emergency services, but for some it is chronic problem, and it is chronic hunger. And we really need to get a way of thinking of ourselves as an emergency food system, especially now during the pandemic, because this is long-term, and this is really going to be important to help people get back on their feet, having that food today in our food pantry network, as well as lifting them up to the federal benefit CalFresh that our local county does such a great job of administering. So we want to thank you so much for being here today, and we will share out information to all of our conference attendees. So thanks for joining us as our breakfast plenary speaker, Tara.
I just want to thank you so much for having me. And honestly, I feel like I should be listening to you speak, not the other way around, because you're the real heroes doing this work every single day. And it's such a huge need in our community. And I cannot thank you enough for your service. Frankly, often your tireless service that doesn't go recognized. So thank you for all that you do. And it's just an incredible honor to be here with you today.
Thank you.
Thanks.